welcome again to another episode of the Debby Campbell Goodtime Show. Oh my gosh, we have got a guest for you today. We have the original pop princess. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Debbie Gibson.
Hi.
Yay, I'm so happy to have you. This is so great.
Thank you.
So I know you're born in Brooklyn.
I was
That's where my son lives. Yeah.
Oh, Brooklyn's amazing now. And even back then, I mean, I only lived there till I was 2, but we went back a lot.
Right.
My parents were there. And eventually we all moved to Long Island.
Right.
And I remember the block parties and my cousin Rose Catrano, who's like 90 something
Wow.
now. She still lives there.
Really? Does she still live in Merrick?
No, she's in Brooklyn. She's
Okay.
in Brooklyn, and she does like the Catholic Italian feasts at her home, and has all those like old like lace tablecloths and statues and things.
Oh, wow. So probably you get back there quite a bit then.
Not a lot.
Oh, Deb, how old is she? You better get your butt back there.
I know. Well, now listen, this year for travel's been.
So your first breakthrough song was Only in My Dreams. Is that correct?
Yes.
Wow. And you were only what, 16?
Yeah, so I wrote that song at 13.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I was writing songs from the time I was like 5. If something happened in my life, I wrote about it. But starting when I was like 11 or 12, I got obsessed with writing. And I was writing songs that were like cute and fun, you know. Everybody sing that music. Everybody sing that song. They all sounded kind of like jingles.
Right.
You would do in school choir, because that was me writing from my limited experience.
Right.
And when I started getting really into the radio, I mean, I was always into pop. Like I was always into Billy Joel and Elton John. And sorry, all of a sudden there's like street cleaners going by, Murphy's Law, you know.
All right. I can't hear him.
But yeah, I started becoming obsessed with pop music on the radio. And I knew that I wanted to write something that could be on the radio. And it was one of the only times I ever deliberately set out to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I had like a little 4-track recording studio set up in my house. That's a longer story, but the abridged version is that I was doing a lot of voiceovers and TV commercials and things. And anytime I'd go into a recording studio, I'd be like, I could produce if I knew the technology. Because
Right.
I knew I had the arrangements in my head. I knew I had the sound in my head. And I was a musician, so I could relay chords and notes, but I didn't know the technology. So my mom went, I like to say my mom, Diane, was like one of the original momagers. She went to an uncle of ours in Jersey to get a loan, to get me studio equipment.
Right.
So Joseph Pastuzzi, thank you. He lent my mom the money. She basically like danced on the tabletops and said, you know Deborah, and she loves to sing, and she does theater. And anyway, I got that little studio set up, and I had the drum machine, the Lynn drum machine, and I was making a beat, and it was that Only in My Dreams beat. And that opening line kind of dropped in, and you're a writer, so you know how that is. It's like you chant.
I'm not.
Oh, I thought you were a writer.
No.
Okay.
I know I probably could, but I've just never been in a situation. I've always been a working flight attendant girl for 30, so I've never really tried. But
I'll tell that story in a minute. But yeah, so for me, the melodies just like drop in. So that line, every time I'm telling secrets, just like dropped in, and I didn't even know what it meant. But
Right.
I was like, that is an opening line of a hit pop song, and I knew it. And I just kept following the breadcrumb trail.
Right.
And the song kind of wrote itself in 10 minutes, and I demoed it in the garage that day.
Right.
With that said, about 100 songs later, Atlantic Records signed me to do just the one, because they were kind of like, this has to be a fluke. You're so young.
Right.
And so it's interesting because I now have a nephew who's 14, and he's doing like remixes and kind of EDM, like dance.
Right.
And he's like I was. He's like, how can I get a record deal? I'm like, hold on.
Right.
Develop your catalog first. Develop your repertoire. Develop your skills. Hone
Right.
your craft. and then that moment will come.
Right.
But all kids are impatient at 12. The 4 years from like 12 to 16 felt like an eternity.
Well, especially when he sees the success that his aunt has had, that just speeds him wanting to do it,
No, totally.
Yeah.
And these days, it's not all about a deal. These days, it's really about building your following online and all kinds of things. So I don't
It's
even
a whole different scenario now.
Yeah.
So Atlantic gave you a developing deal, which was a development deal because of that song, right?
Right. So basically, they gave me. It really was to do the one dance single, and I will never forget going up to Atlantic, and it's incredible because I just had another dance hit on the Billboard charts that went top 5 with my song "Girls Night Out,"
which we'll talk about that later.
Yes, my roots are in. So maybe it's because I'm from Brooklyn. Maybe I have that always have that grassroots underdog mentality. I don't know why, but the dance department at Atlantic was Larry Asgar, Bruce Carbone, and Anthony Sanfilippo. Those were my boys. And they had the office in the middle of the hall with no windows that nobody wanted. And they had stacks and stacks of records. And they were on those phones and they were hustling.
Right.
And I loved that. Even at 16, I always had that work ethic. I was like, what do you need me to do to make this happen? And my mom would say, what do you need us to do? And so I went and played clubs at 16. Nobody really knew my age.
Right.
Right. And I saw every, kitchen and basement with the pipes dripping and the rats running around, and everyone from the, real kind of Italian mafiosa club owners to the 6'8" drag queen club owners. Gay clubs were always my favorite. Right? And, I hit the road. I mean, it was just a wild experience.
But all through that, you still finished high school.
I did. I had it in me that I just had this conversation with a good friend of mine the other day. I always wanted to be normal.
Right.
And I wasn't normal. And most people aren't normal. It's like, what does that even mean? None of us are cookie cutter, right? And now, obviously, homeschooling has become a necessity. But I believe there are some kids that are meant for homeschooling. There are some kids that are meant for school. There are some kids that are meant for college. There are some kids that are meant for college online.
Right.
There are kids that are not. I didn't go to college. I turned out all right. So, I just think everyone's path is really different. And the reason I say this is because, yes, I wanted to graduate with my class so that I would be able to say, look, I graduated with my class. I'm normal. And I wanted that connection to normalcy.
Right.
But it really wasn't a normal experience. It was quite torturous, actually, because kids were really bullying me before bullying was a word. And you think that kids get bullied for being, kids get bullied for being different. And I was very different, and my life outside of school was so different, and kids were very jealous. So it was actually a very, very tough time. But hopefully it just gave me a thicker skin, and it kept me in touch with what to write songs about, because I was immersed in some kind of, community experience with people my age.
Right. So with your recording of Only in My Dreams, you became the original pop princess.
Thank you. I mean, gosh, there was me, there was Tiffany, who I was just texting with this morning.
Cool.
I don't know if you're familiar with her music and her voice these days, but she is an amazing artist. And, and of course there were New Kids on the Block, and there was also Shanice, and there was some other, the Jets, but there really were like a handful of us younger artists at the time. I joke now, it's like, sorry, you're a fetus, you're too old. Grooming them younger, but we were kind of the pioneers for our generation of, starting so young.
Right. But then you also wrote, produced, and performed Foolish Beat, #1.
Yes. That was an incredible experience, mainly because I remember the day my mom and I went into the record company, and we were like, I didn't really have an official A&R person at the label. And for those of you watching who don't know what that is, that's artist and repertoire. So, there have been many great men and women who have been great A&R people. Back then it was namely men, and it was just great music men, and and the Clive Davises and the people who crafted a career and listened to every note of every song and said, change this or do that. I didn't have that because they kept thinking it was a fluke. They were like,
Right.
just do what you did. Like, do what you did last year. Do it again. And so with Foolish Beat, my mom heard the demo, and of course the Atlantic guys heard the demo, and they all wanted somebody else to produce it. And my mom's like, but if you listen to the demo, and I don't know how my mom knew this stuff, right? She always had this innate ability to support talent, right? And creativity. And so she was like, if you listen to the demo, guys, Deb has a clear vision for this song. So just let her go into the studio and basically do the heightened, tighter version of what she did on this demo.
Right.
And she sat, man, with that room full of, I would have been petrified. I was petrified for her. She was like in her 30s and really went from like housewife to doctor's office manager to music manager. And suddenly she's talking to Ahmet Ertegun and pounding her fists on the table saying, I want my daughter to produce this record. So she fought for that opportunity and it happened. And then it went number 1, and then it put me in the Guinness Book of World.
I know. I was just going to say, you still hold that record.
So I hold the record now for being the youngest female. I was the youngest, period, up until several years ago. Soulja Boy became the youngest male. I think he was 17 also. So he might have beat me by a couple of months, and my hat's off to him because it was a great record that he did. And again, he was doing what I was doing. He was like doing it in his room and speaking to his generation. So I love that. But I'm still the youngest girl. I say girl, I know I'm a woman, but I'm always going to be a girl. I'm the youngest female still. So it's wild. It's really wild. And man, it was a team effort between me and my mom.
Wow. And she's still, now, how long did she manage you?
Yeah, so she's not my manager anymore. She managed me for about 25 years. Mm-hmm. And my manager, Heather Moore, had actually worked for my mom and I when I was in my 20s for about 7 or 8 years. Then we went our separate ways. And then when I was looking to part ways with my mom in business, which was obviously a difficult thing, I was like, oh my God, who am I going to find? And then it came to mind that I should call Heather again. And she's unbelievable.
So she's been with you how long now, Heather?
About 8 years or 9 years.
Okay.
And, I've been through health issues and all kinds of challenges, and she has stuck with me like family would stick with you. And from your experience, that manager relationship, it is like family. It's such a personal relationship. And that person is like the den mother, the therapist, the business manager, everything, puts all the pieces together. People kind of go, what does a manager do? It's like, what don't they do?
Right. I have that same connection with it's like a sister from another mother, pretty much.
That's so great that you have that. And I think especially for females, because, I have a lot of male artist friends who are a little more in control of they like that control.
Right.
I like the creative control, and I want the bullet points of a deal, but I don't want to live in a business mindset. I want to live in a creative mindset.
Right. You don't want to book the appointments. You don't want to book the tour dates. You want to, I know.
Approve everything, but I want somebody to free me up to be creative and to have that trust with Heather is incredible.
Right.
And my mom did such a great, I think, again, it was unprecedented times when I started. And again, to start as a teenage girl in a very male-dominated world, to have the mom I did, who, number one, was just crazy enough to let me do it, and to help me do it.
Right.
I mean, I will make that movie someday. And I always say I want to tell the story from her point of view, more than from my point of view, because I think she has the more interesting story. She was juggling 4 kids and a husband and a job, and then eventually segued out of that job, and I became her job, and all of those dynamics. I mean,
you know what? I just got goosebumps when you said that. It's like she's the wind beneath your wings.
1,000%.
Yeah.
I mean, I was having panic attacks, and I was, just think about what it's like just to process being a teenage girl. Right. And moms go through with their teenage girls. And now, imagine your teenage girl is out on the road in foreign countries, and the pressure of like, oh my God, if I don't play this arena tonight, I still owe people, my crew, $150,000. I mean, the things that the realms of thinking you enter into and the psychology, it's wild. I'm not complaining. I loved it. I chose it, but it is
Right.
its own unique experience. And who has to deal with any fallout? The mom.
Right. Right. My teenage girl I see walking down the street holding her Debbie Gibson VHS on her way to her girlfriend's house with her black hat so that they could go and watch the VHS and do the dance moves.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
So, Deb, you've performed for British royalty. Who did you perform for?
Oh my gosh. Well, Princess Diana, the late great.
Oh my gosh.
My birthday, which was devastating, and Charles and the Queen Mother, and on and on. I did the Princess Royal Trust Gala,
Uh-huh.
and that's one of my and also like all of the royal family came to see me do Grease in London. I say to see me to see the whole cast. It was a
Right.
huge event.
Right. Now you were Sandy in that production, right?
I was, yeah.
Now how come you weren't Sandy in the US production?
That's a whole story, which I can tell you in a minute. But so when I met Princess Diana, though, I would love to tell you this story. I was opening the whole show doing Electric Youth in my ripped jean shorts and my bandana and my vest. And of course, I was all excited. I was, like 18 and I had my gown because you meet her in a gown and you
Right.
curtsy and the whole deal. And they were like, oh no, you're not going to have time to change. So you have to just meet her in your performance.
Electric Youth outfit.
I'm mortified. Like I was more mortified. Like, what is she gonna? So I said to her, I go, listen, I'm so sorry. I'm dressed like this for you. I was all excited to wear my gown. She said, listen, you look a heck of a lot more comfortable than I am. So, everything you've ever heard about her in one sentence, because she wanted to make you feel comfortable. She was so down to earth.
Right.
And it was just like one of my career highlights, in life.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure.
But
So-
so the Sandy thing, the Broadway revival and the West End revival were being launched at the same time. And the Weislers, who I love and who I've worked for, a couple of times, they were doing the Broadway, but they didn't have the film music rights. A lot of people don't realize Grease was a musical first.
Right. Right.
And so I just had my heart set on, if I was going to play Sandy, I was going to sing Hopelessly Devoted.
Right.
And You're the One That I Want. And I was over in London promoting an album, and I got wind of the fact they were doing the production there too. And they got wind of the fact that I was there. And Sandy was like the last character they had cast. They couldn't find the right person, and in I walked, and it was like, and it was also like, God, what 20 some, I was in my early 20s, and it was my opportunity to star in the West End.
Right.
And to live in London for a year.
And that broke box office records.
It did. It was sold out the entire run that I was there. It was so incredible.
Right.
And I went back on a vacation to London just in this past December.
Uh-huh.
And I'm still friends with those people. I still looked them up. I saw my musical director. I saw the guy from the cast who I dated, who now has a male other half,
Right. Right.
I saw another friend of mine, Drew. Anyway, the point is that show brings people together.
Yes.
Adrian Med, who I did the touring company, the national tour with, playing Rizzo here.
Right.
Practically my neighbor here in Vegas, and I saw him like a week ago. He came to pick up an auction item from me, and he waved to me from 10 feet away in his hazmat suit. We're still friends, and I mean, Marissa Jarrett-Winokur, she was in it. Sally Struthers, we just texted last week. I mean, it's just incredible. That show has helped create so many friendships, and has been a big
But you have done so many Broadway. I mean, Les Miserables. You did Beauty. You played Belle in Beauty and the Beast.
I did. Debbie, I sometimes really pinch myself and go, I can't believe this is my life.
Right.
I mean, I have a lot more to do, but if this was all I would ever do in my entire life, I have lived out more dreams than you can imagine. I mean,
right.
As a little girl, who doesn't want to play a Disney princess? I got to play Belle, and then I got to play Cinderella.
Cinderella, yes, Cinderella.
It was my fairy godmother. I mean, who gets to say that?
Right.
And learned, especially from these women that I've worked with, Betty Buckley, and I worked with or in fact, my Gypsy poster is like over my shoulder in this room.
Okay. Yeah.
And my Les Mis is over the other shoulder. But I, working with someone like Betty Buckley, who's just a theater genius. She's like such a force of nature. And we butt heads at times, but I think she's so smart as an actor that she, in her own unique way, was trying to create that mother-daughter dynamic in a
Right.
3-week rehearsal period so that we could make magic. She kind of had all of that wired in, and she pushed my buttons and she pushed my limits and she stretched me. And I literally could cry talking about it because
It made you better.
I throws myself into situations like I'm always slightly petrified. I think to myself, can I really do this? Can I
Right.
really do that note 8 times a week? Can I really handle this as an actress? Can I really? And I throw myself into the fire. And I'm lucky enough to have the people around me in the situations to lift me up and say, you
Right.
can do this and we're going to help you.
Right.
It's my drive that has gotten me this far.
And I think a lot of entertainers have that, Deb. Those people, they have, because I think a lot of entertainers are kind of self-conscious. I don't know. I find that.
I mean, as the line goes in Chicago, like what? I had enough love in my childhood. I mean, it's a joke, but meaning we somehow need the applause. But yes, we're in an image-conscious business, and it's like walking. It's like walking a tightrope every time you're on stage.
Exactly.
You just don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
And it's funny because I have friends that are not in theater that will say, oh, well, it's theater so much easier because you're one of a whole company. And I'm like, yeah, but no, I find theater to be way more nerve-wracking because when it's my pop show, it's my show. I can change the key, I can change a note, I wrote the song, I have a microphone very close to my mouth, I can say, sing with me. There's an energy and an adrenaline. When you are like in a theater production and it is dead quiet, and you have all these accomplished theater actors around you, especially for me when I was always like the newbie. I was like the pop girl they hired to sell the tickets. And I started in theater when I was like 7 years old. So I never thought of myself that way, but they did. And so I always felt like I had this extra thing to prove. And so I worked terribly hard to make sure everything was note perfect and everything was, I was projecting to that 50th row in the balcony. And, so it was always, and you have a tiny microphone that's right here. So you're projecting, you're not doing like breathy, pop, nuancy stuff.
Right.
And again, the flip side of that is the pressure of being a pop star is there's no understudy. So if you can't deliver, the show doesn't go on and you disappoint a whole lot of people. And so and you are holding an audience yourself for 2 hours or whatever it is. But it's a different types of nerves and different types of responsibilities go with each one. But for me, theater is like, it's just such a respected genre. And I just always wanted to give everything I did the respect it deserved. And so I put a lot of pressure on myself. Like I usually was an anxious.
Well, because you're probably a perfectionist, I'm sure.
You totally. And like I remember going into Les Mis. Now, Frances Raphael in the West End, original West End, was very poppy. She was on my own, pretending he's beside me. And she did. Now, because I was pop, they made me do it super straight. They were like, "Oh, you can't be a pop star in our show." Like, so there was always stuff going on behind the scenes. People didn't know about it. So I had to be very much like, on my own, pretending he's beside me. So I had to be like laser sharp with the pitch and the notes and nuances that they wanted. You can't put your own
spin
necessarily.
Right.
Now, eventually they loosened up. Like, I kind of feel like I was always the girl they called to bridge the gap. Like, okay, we want to attempt to bring names in, but we want someone who we know can actually do it in a traditional way.
Right.
Like, even I was like the first, like, called celebrity, whatever, pop.
Right.
And then I was so thrilled they brought Toni Braxton in after me.
Oh, nice.
So it was kind of the beginning of colorblind casting. It was the beginning of, we're going to custom tailor it to Toni because Toni comes with a presence and a following that might not normally come to the theater. So let's allow her to lower a key. Why not? I mean, I kind of almost feel like lower a key for any actor that comes into a role.
Exactly.
Let it be where they live, where they're comfortable. So that's like an interesting thing, because there's so much tradition in theater, and you want to honor the composer's vision. And as a writer, I write things in certain keys, and I think they sound better in certain keys than others. But my God, if you're going to cover my song online, put it in your key.
Exactly. Now, you've also been a narrator for
Joseph.
Exactly.
So the Osmonds, okay, so Alan Osmond has 8 boys, and 7 of the 8 of Alan's boys were on that tour with me.
Oh my gosh.
And Patrick Cassidy. So we had like the Cassidy name, the Osmond name, mine. It was like almost like people that were known or related to teen pop stardom, all in this one cast. Patrick's incredible. He and I have remained friends through the years. He's now the artistic director out at is it Thousand Oaks? I'm going to get it wrong. I think it's called 5-Star Theatricals, I believe, now in California. Okay. And
yeah, I know all of the guys. They were in Branson.
Oh, how cool! I bet.
The whole family was in Branson, so yeah, they're awesome.
I love that. Yeah, so those Osmond boys and I like to say we went to every cheesecake factory in America.
Oh, how funny. Well, that's better than what Dad and we lived in all the Walmarts.
Oh my gosh, how funny. But yeah, and Tim Rice I'm honored to call him friend, from doing Joseph and Beauty and benefits that he's been, honored, and I've gotten to sing his music over the years. But yeah, so the narrator part, that was another one. It's like, Jacob and sons of the letting out a mighty roar. I can't do it perfectly right now, but like the range of that role is so crazy.
I bet.
But the show's so fun, and people would come up afterwards and go, oh my God, that was so cute. You did such a good job. And like, they don't realize again, like you're warming up your voice to like do all this stuff to make it look cute, because my voice doesn't live up there.
Right.
It never did, but it was so much fun. That show was great. And to have a different children's choir in every city. And it ranged from, like upper class to like, look, we played, I think it was the Masonic Temple Theater in Detroit. I have a weird memory for this stuff. And that children's choir, listen, they were like walking home by themselves through these alleys, and they had a rough life. They had a rough life, and again, I could cry. The music brought them something, right. It validated them, it uplifted them. Mm-hmm. They were so good, that choir. I remember them, right. And it was just so much fun. Me and usually it was Eric Martzoff who played the Pharaoh, who's on, oh my God, what's the soap opera he's on? Somebody will have to look it up. The producer can look it up. But he does soaps now, but he was the Pharaoh, and he and I were like notorious for sitting and having lunch with the kids. Uh-huh. Because these kids were just like, they'll never forget that.
I'm sure. No,
I was that theater kid who never forgot. Right. I was a kid in A Christmas Carol that Sheldon Harnick and Michelle Legrand wrote, and Gary Beach played Uncle Fred, and then he was my Lumiere in Beauty and the Beast on Broadway. And I was,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God, I was that 11-year-old kid who looked up to you, and here we are in the same.
And here you are together.
Yeah. So it's very powerful theater for kids, I think.
Yeah.
Just any kind of art, like channeling your feelings through art. It's a powerful thing.
Yes. Well, gosh, Deb, and then from there, oh my gosh, you went on to television.
Yeah, I mean, I've done, well, gosh, there's been, guest spots on TV, and then my love affair with the Hallmark Channel.
Yes. Well, you created and produced, you were the executive producer, and you wrote and starred in Summer of Dreams.
Yeah, so, it was on the other night, and I love when this happens so much. It's like when I would happen to have the radio on and my song would come on. I happen to have Hallmark on in my bedroom on my big screen TV because I'm a Hallmark fan.
So am I. Love Hallmark. I know.
And I heard, I was like, is that my movie? Oh my God, they're playing my movie. I had no idea they were going to be rerunning it.
Uh-huh.
And I laid in bed and I cried. You might gather I cry a lot. I laid in bed and I cried because I was like, my dreams of just I always envision things in my head. I always get ideas. And again, a lot of kids and adults get
Right.
ideas. And it's about the follow through and finding the team members who can help connect the dots and help you see the ideas to fruition. So to have an idea in your head and then to be watching it in your own bedroom on your own TV with you
Exactly.
supporting it, it's like mind-boggling.
I'm sure. Yes.
I'm not nonchalant about any of this. I'm always just like, oh my God, this happened again. Like, knock wood, can we do it again? And then we got to do the sequel. So we did Wedding of Dreams, and
Right.
Robert Ant, who a lot of people know from Queer as Folk, he played my fiance and then husband, and he's just dreamy and awesome.
Now, has that aired? The wedding, that was it Summer of Dreams that aired the other night?
Yes, Summer of Dreams, the first
Okay,
one.
so what's Wedding of Dreams come out?
Yes, Wedding of Dreams came out like 2 years ago. So that's,
Okay.
I think you can get them all on demand.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it was a sequel, and it was like loosely based on my life because I had started a summer music program one year, nearly a decade ago in LA.
Oh, that was in LA, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I woke up one day and had a crazy idea to start. I was like, I want to start a summer camp with music and kids. And I had no idea what I was doing.
Was it named Electric Youth? Was that the?
It was, yes.
Right.
And like I called my friend Patrick Hancock, who's a character actor in LA and a dear friend of mine, and I was like, do you want to help me with this? And he's like, yeah. And literally just like that, we just started the ball rolling. And I still don't know how we did it. And then I had a scholarship fund and a program and a charity. And I mean, it just kept building. And
it was for just that 1 week, wasn't it?
It was for the summer. It was like 2 weeks or 3 weeks that summer. But then here's what I discovered. So I did like an elective. So I had like a curriculum.
Right.
Kids would go from one building to another and one class to another. And Howard Fine, my acting teacher, I asked if he could use his studio complex. And I asked if he would teach, and he's never taught kids. And to this day, he goes, I've never been more exhausted in my life because kids demand an energy of you that's like, to all the teachers out there watching, bravo, and parents. I'm just a puppy mom. I am not a parent. I'm not a teacher full time. But God, wow.
Were you at the camp, Deb? Did you go to the camp and you did everything?
I was there all day, every day, and I was there till midnight doing the books.
Wow.
I was there meeting the first parent. I was there. And then what I started doing was I said, I'm going to throw in like an after school kind of, this is what my movie was based on, like a songwriting program.
Uh-huh.
And I thought maybe a few kids, maybe 5 kids will want to do. I had like 50 kids at my feet, sitting Indian style with their notebooks, hanging on my every word. I would stay till the last kid got their song idea fleshed out.
Right.
And the parents were like waiting on the street in in Hollywood, this terrible neighborhood, till like, 9 at night. I mean, it was wild. And so after that, I said, I want to nurture these kids that really want to write. So I opened up my home. And I made my home a place. Jeff Timmons from 98 Degrees, some other programmer friends of mine would come over. We were doing vocals in the yard and programming in this room and writing at the piano in that room. And I mean, it was crazy. Then the kids were like, well, we want to hear these fully produced. So then I started a recording boot camp, and I did it at Glenwood Play Studios. And it was when Kanye was recording Love Lockdown right across the hall. And I loved that so much because the kids were like getting this real world feeling of what it was.
Right.
And I had like the bass player from Depeche Mode and the drummer from Collective Soul and like all these A-list musicians and producers who cut their rates to make it affordable for these kids. And they walked out with like a fully produced record. And they each sang on each other's stuff. They sang harmonies. They got to learn about that. And my goal, I wanted to do for them what my mom did for me, essentially. I wanted to say, how do you hear your record sounding?
Right.
Give me references. Give us like, what's your favorite song on the radio right now that reminds you of your song? Or do you have like a certain sound of a guitar you like from it? Like I had them keying into that. And boy, was it fun. We had everything from gospel and Christian to Evanescence type, like classical rock. We had pop, we had dance, we had everything you can imagine, country, everything. It was very, very exciting. And then I continue just when I can to do that. So like a couple of years ago, I did one of those on Long Island, and a young woman named Jackie Romeo walked in, and she was, God, it must be 4 years. She was only 13, and she walked in like, didn't look like your teenager who was trying to look older. She was a real teenager. She had, straight, full reddish hair, no makeup on. And she made a disclaimer right from the beginning, which I took note of, which was like, oh, I never want to do what you do. It seems like so much pressure to be like a pop performer and like, oh my God. Well, my manager, Heather, is now managing her, and she's twice on amateur night at the Apollo.
Wow.
And so Jackie Romeo Music is her Instagram, and I post her stuff all the time. I joke, but not, when I say I could train and warm up my voice my entire life and not sound as good as her. Because she has this God-given vocal ability.
Right.
So innate. My big note to her was always about connecting emotionally to a song, but I didn't want to touch her voice. I'm like,
right.
That is like, let that just be free and do what you do. And she does study now, because eventually you have to train, you have to do your instrument.
Right.
But
it's like a muscle, it's a muscle. So you gotta.
And it changes, it changes with stress and with the weather and with what you're eating and what you're going through emotionally. And there's allergies in this theater, and you have a cold. And if I didn't have technique, I'd be nowhere right now.
Right.
And my technique, like, it's everything to me.
Yeah.
But Jackie, so my point is, I love working with kids, and then in doing my Hallmark movies, I met a young boy named Sean Thomas, who was 13 in the first movie. He was the tall kid, like surfer boy looking kid with the blonde hair. And he's now 18, and he's about to graduate Berklee Music College online.
Oh, that's awesome.
And he has been producing and tracking up my stuff. We work virtually, and sometimes he and his brother's mom flies them here. And he's in Vancouver. And I love working with, I connect so much with talented, creative, hungry kids, because I am still that kid.
Right.
And I love when I'm like texting notes in the middle of the night, and he's right there back with, I'll send you a mix in 10 minutes. I'm here, I'm doing it.
Right.
That's like and we speak the same musical language.
Yeah, that's when I met you, when you were in the middle of filming that, because you were just coming back from, I think you were coming back from Des Moines with Lou Ferrigno and Frida Payne. The what?
I think I might have been doing like gay pride performance, possibly.
Yeah, I think it was. It was with Frida Payne and Lou Ferrigno.
Oh, or that might have been an autograph convention then too. I don't know, or it might have been both. But yes, Lou Ferrigno.
Yeah, but I remember we were talking, and you said that you were doing the film. You were filming in Vancouver for the Hallmark, so I remember that.
Yes, I love that we met on that flight.
I know. I couldn't believe it when you told me. I don't normally tell people who my dad is, but you and I struck up a conversation, and then I told you, and you're like, "Well, that was your first concert."
Oh my gosh!
I'm like, "Oh my gosh!"
I got dressed today, and I was like, I kind of look like a rhinestone cowgirl, right?
Exactly.
Rock and roll country vibe today, but.
You look adorable.
Your dad's incredible, and that concert was amazing and so memorable.
How old were you when you saw him?
I feel like I had to be 8, something like that.
Oh my gosh. Wow. I wanted to ask you, when did you start playing piano?
I started by ear at 4, and then started lessons at 6.
Okay.
Had the piano in the house, and my older sister, for as much as my mom knew that I was musical, she thought, well, 4 or 5 is just way too young for lessons. So I would sit and listen to my sisters practice and play by ear. And then she was like, all right, let's get you some lessons.
Exactly. Oh, that's awesome. And you never quit, Deb. You went on, what was it, the 25th anniversary or the 25th season of Dancing with the Stars?
I did, and I dealt with Lyme disease for many years. I always put it in the past tense because I like to view it there.
Right.
But I was really in the thick of it then, and I wasn't sure. When I said yes to the show, I was feeling good, and then I kind of took a dip.
Right.
And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make this not about winning, because look, if I would have done the show 5 years, a decade sooner, 5 years sooner,
right,
I could have won. I was like dancing on Broadway, right? And I decided, you know what, I'm really not going to make, like, Dancing with the Stars to me has become so much about people telling their powerful stories and empowering stories. So I went on and really kind of put myself in a humbling position because I knew my body wasn't going to be able to take it.
Right. Right.
And it could take the dancing more than it could take the elements. So like in the studio, the smoke and the dancers wearing cologne and perfume, which I'm terribly sensitive and allergic to, and
Right.
the glue on the rhinestones. And I was like, anyone who's dealt with Lyme knows you become very chemically sensitive. So you have to keep your atmosphere as pristine as possible when you're at that kind of a moment. And so I did the best I could with it. Lasted a few weeks, did some really fun dances. My favorite was the tango, the Argentinian tango, which I did to Havana. And my partner, Alan Burstyn, it was his first season, and I was his first celebrity, which was exciting. And he then win this last season, so I was so proud.
I have somebody that wants to come in and say hi. Well, anyways, for those of you watching, Mark wrote Debbie's autobiography.
Yes, we did like kind of an earlier autobiography when everything started hitting, called Between the Lines.
What year was that?
It was like 88 maybe.
So that's right when you start. That's when you're getting going right then and there, huh?
It was like the height of everything, and my diehard fans love that book to this day.
What I've got to get it. I must read it because Debbie, you were only 18, 19 at the time?
Yeah, look, it was like the story of my childhood and leading up to that success, essentially.
Okay, all right. It's like getting to where you were, at that time.
Yes. You know, for those teenage fans that wanted my life thus far.
Right. So are you thinking about doing another one possibly?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you know, the thing that always stops me is I'm creating new things all the time.
Right.
And so, like, you have to be in a very specific place, I think, to want to sit and reflect and, you know, kind of drudge all that stuff up. And it's emotional, and it's like,
well, because you cry all the time.
Drop of a hat at a Hallmark commercial and Hallmark movie. But no, like right now I'm so into moving forward that I'm just so not in. I don't have the need right now to look back and tell my story. So I'm gonna kick that.
And it takes a lot out of you. It takes a lot out of you.
Yeah, and I'm someone who's super candid, but I'm not sensationalized. So you know, we've gone to publishers before where they're like, well, what's that soundbite in that story that's going to like make Entertainment Tonight want to make it their lead story? I'm like, I have super interesting, fascinating stories that'll make people go, oh my God, I can't believe that. But none of them are that kind of like sensationalized, and I will not sensationalize anything to sell a book.
Right, exactly.
Which is why I'm actually, at the end of the day, a terrible reality show contestant as well, because all of these shows, they want you to tell your story, but they want you to amp your story up.
Right.
And they want you to tell, I'm going to be realistic, but I'm going to always go toward the positive of realistic, because I don't want to stay like stuck in a hole ever.
Right.
And so like, I remember at one point we were pitching my own reality show with a company, and I thank my lucky stars that never happened, because I don't think living with cameras on. Oh no.
Yeah.
I'm so like private 90% of my life. But yeah, the common feedback was always like, we know you're always going to land on your feet. You're a cat. So there's nothing interesting about it because you're not a train wreck. And it's like, I find that a lot of times in pitching, like, which I think is why a lot of artists end up writing their own, self-publishing, their own autobiography, so that there's no one kind of saying like, oh, you've got to amp that up, or no.
Mark, are you there, honey? Can you hear us?
I can hear you now. Yeah. Hello.
So you wrote Debbie's.
Mark was around kind of from the beginning with David Salador, who was my very first publicist, and that.
Right, I've met David. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, are you have you finished the Broadway musical that you're working on with Jimmy Van Patten?
Yeah. So The Flunky with Jimmy Van Patten. He first made a movie of that. And I met him. This is such a funny story. I'm telling you, I have story after story.
I'm sure.
This is the craziest story. He's going to love that I'm telling the story. I'm so glad you brought this up. So I did Playboy, as many people may or may not know, and I did it well into my 30s when I felt like, oh, this is a decision I'm making as a woman. It's not like, look at me, I'm a woman. It's like, I've been a woman for a decade, and now this sounds iconically fun to me. So I did that, And one of the greatest things to come out of doing that was meeting Hef, getting to go to the mansion, and getting to learn that there are the crazy decadent mansion parties with Grotto and the girls. And then there was like the Friday night dinner and movie night, which when I would go would turn into and sing-along night. Like Hef's old casting director friends would be like, sing something from Evita. And then I'm all, don't cry for me, Argentina. And I'm like thinking, this is the mansion? I'm singing Evita at the piano.
Right.
And so Jimmy was there. Jimmy was very, very good friends with Hef. And Jimmy was bringing the script to an actress there to look at. And he had the vision, he had the script, and he had some lyrics, but he didn't have the music. And so he has this neighbor that I think is still his neighbor, who's a psychic, like an actual psychic.
Right.
And she like sees him leaving his townhouse to go to the mansion, and he has a script in his hand. And she goes, I don't know what that is, but you better go print up another one because you're going to need it. And he's like, what do you mean? He goes, this is my script. She goes, well, there's going to be someone else there you're going to want to give it to.
Oh.
So he goes to Kinko's on his way to the mansion. He prints another script, and I'm there. And I have this agent at the time who is like, oh, you're Jimmy Van Patten. This is Debbie Gibson. Da, 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 da.
Right.
And he didn't really know my career so well. And in fact, I'm sitting at the piano, and his brother, Nell, says, play Lost in Your Eyes. And I play Lost in Your Eyes. And then Jimmy shouts out, now do one of your songs. And Nels goes, you moron. That was like one of her biggest songs. I go, Jimmy, like, you better brush up on. So he goes, you know, like, I have this script with me. And then my agent at the time goes, well, you know, she loves composing for theater and she's done a lot of Broadway. So he hands me the script.
Did he give you the original one or the Kinko one?
I don't know which one. He handed me the script. I think it was the one meant for me, the second one. And the way my mind works is if I resonate with something,
right,
the ideas drop in immediately.
Right.
So I'm reading the script. I literally get home from the mansion at like 11 at night or midnight, and I start reading it, and I start writing music. And the next morning, I call him. I go, Jimmy Van Patten, this is Debbie Gibson. This is such a funny story to say now because he's like my brother. Like he's my family.
Right.
And I said, you know, I think Hef has another, like he does another night on Saturday night. I said, can you meet me in the guest house at Hef's? Like he has a piano in there. I can play you some of the music I came up with. So the next night I play him the opening number of the song, which has not changed since then.
Oh my God.
I remember the song. I was like, hey, man, I know your name, man. You've got a great tan. My name is Jackie. No, it's tacky, but I am your biggest fan. Anyway, it goes on and on. And so we're still working on it. We did a workshop of it. The good news and the bad news about me and Jimmy is our careers have been really on fire the last couple of years.
And you're so busy. You're so busy.
I'm so busy. He's so busy. I moved to Vegas, but we literally talked like a week ago, and we said we have to reignite it.
Now, is it Flunky or is it Flunky Town?
So we had changed it to Flunky Town, thinking we might wanted to use the song Funky Town in it and make it flunky. I think the Flunky, so it depends. Like, so the Flunky obviously has a very traditional kind of sound to it.
Right.
And it's kind of a rock and roll musical, but it's also traditional.
Right.
It's like it feels old and new at the same time. And so I still refer to it as the Flunky. I think it should be the Flunky. I think it's such a great word.
Right.
And about all of those people that go to LA with a dream of their own, but end up kind of becoming the flunky, the assistant, the hanger-on, or they want to be around a bigger star.
Right.
And it's very much reminiscent of like what went on at that mansion. And it's a very, very fun story. It's a dark comedy. And yeah, so we're ready. The workshop we did was so good. I think, oh my God, we should have just kept it up and running.
Right.
Like, right then and there.
Yeah.
It's very like cult following, kind of like Rocky Horror in a way. And
right.
homage to those kind of shows. But with that said, Jimmy grew up with Mel Brooks at his dinner table.
Right.
So he's got this classic comedic sensibility. And I have like a traditional theater sensibility, but Jimmy and I are also very much like modern people. We live in the current world.
Right.
And so I think it's got a little bit of all those elements. And, you know, Jimmy and his brother last year had a huge hit with a film they did called Walk to Vegas. And then it was called, was it called 7 Minutes to Vegas, 7 Miles to Vegas? I don't know. I'm going to butcher the title.
Yeah.
I should, research department. Nobody's here. It's locked down. But he and his brother had a hit movie. And so there's all kinds of cool stuff happening for both he and I.
You are so busy, Deb. I mean, you've just finished up a 55 show tour with New Kids on the Block. It was the Mixtape tour.
Mixtape tour, yes. Yeah. Last year was wild because I did that and then this TV show for Nickelodeon. But the Mixtape.
Oh, you were a judge. Weren't you a judge on that?
Yeah, and I went right from one thing to the next. I had like a dream career year. I was like promoting movies, and then I think I was on the Today Show like 3 years in a row or 4 years. It was like insane. Like I was like, who has like it's been like a several year moment for me, my little bubble. You know what I mean? In my world. But the mix.
It's not a little bubble. It's a big bubble.
I always think to myself, like I always remind myself how unimportant I am. It just helps everything. But like in what I've been striving to do with my own creativity in my career, it was a big moment for me personally because I got to connect with these fans, like your daughter, who you described.
Well, it's so funny because when I saw that you were coming to Phoenix, then of course I called you. I said, Deb, I'm surprising my daughter with for her birthday. So do you think that we could come back and she could say hi? You know, so you gave us. So we get to the venue. And then I run into Mark, and I'm like, "Oh my God, Mark, what are you doing here?" He goes, "Well,
that was so amazing."
You know, I had no idea that he wrote your book. You know, and so when I go to Will Call to pick up the meet and greet passes, I see that you've put tickets in there, and I'm like, "Well, we weren't asking for tickets. We were just wanted to come back and meet you." I'm like, "Well, now what am I going to do with these tickets that I bought?" So then, of course, my daughter goes, "Well, I'll just go see if somebody out there doesn't have any, and I'll sell them our tickets." It was so funny.
That's great. Yeah, no, we were so happy to see you there. Oh my gosh.
Oh,
yeah, it was. I mean, listen, Donnie Wahlberg texted me and was, you know, asked me about like his management, called my manager, and then Donnie really had this vision to put that particular group of acts together, and it was magical.
Tiffany,
and whatever he does next is going to be magical too. But I have to say, that group was like, I mean, it was so diverse, but it all worked. And I love that, like, maybe a Naughty by Nature fan had never been to one of my shows, and one of my fans had never been to a Naughty show. And, like, everyone ended up leaving with newfound respect for all the acts. And it was incredible. And the thing that I love, too, is that the guys share their stage. They didn't want it to be, oh, you're going to play your biggest hit to a half-empty arena at 7 p.m., and who's going to go first and who's going to go second. It was truly a mixtape. It was like 2.5 hours of wall-to-wall hits. Like, it was awesome. My favorite thing was that it went from Naughty going, hey, ho, to me going, can't you see I'm not fooling nobody? So, like, that was one of my most surreal moments, was like preparing for Foolish Beat with the piano that rose out of the stage, looking at Naughty with their drawers down to their, you know, halfway down. Hey, ho, and it was great. It was so awesome.
My favorite was when you sang with Joey.
Thank you.
That was excellent. That was excellent.
Lost in Your Eyes. I love that.
Yeah, Joe, Donnie said, you know, Joe has an idea to do Lost in Your Eyes with you. And I was like, wow, that's like one of my biggest hits, and I've never shared it. Like,
but didn't you record something? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you, Deb. No, didn't you record something with Jordan Knight also?
I did. I had done a duet
back in the day, right? Yeah.
But that was an original song that was given to us.
Okay.
So to kind of like reimagine one of my own hits. But I thought, how cool. And you know what was so much fun was the moment, like I did my verse, and a lot of the audience eventually knew it was coming, but so many said I purposely didn't go on social media because I didn't want to know anything about the show till I saw it.
Right.
So a lot of people were surprised when he walked out. And that moment of the audience screaming, him walking out, and suddenly I felt like the chick pianist / songwriter, like enjoying somebody else interpreting my song.
Yes.
as opposed to me being the one doing it. I was just like sitting back and taking in that moment. Like, I mean, it was cool. It was
Right.
cool. He's a pro and a gentleman, and like he has that kind of old school, like, you know, living here in Vegas, and you get the, you know, the Engelbert Humperdinks and the
Right.
classic entertainers that
I grew up with Engelbert.
I bet, you know, Wayne Newton or whoever. But like the reason people still come to see those entertainers is because they give it to you.
Yes.
And Joey, I mean, he's warming up his voice and he's belting to the top of his range and he's down on his knees and he's sweating and I mean, he ain't phoning it in.
It was awesome. It was an amazing, yeah.
Yeah, it was an amazing thing to be a part of. And then, yeah. So
it was like it was a Broadway show and you were the diva who rose up out of the floor. I mean, it was amazing. The staging, everything.
Yeah, I mean, again, we all brought our own. So, yeah, I think I brought those theatrics maybe. And, like, Tiffany brings her rock and roll thing and that voice. And, like, everybody just brings their own element. You know?
So tell me, we brought it up earlier, but Girls Night Out, oh my gosh, it's, what is it, number 4 in climbing?
It is. And just to go really quickly in sequential order, so right from the Mixtape tour, this old friend of mine, Doug Cohn, who was an executive at Nickelodeon at the time, called and said, would you like to be a judge on our show, America's Most Musical Family, with Sierra and David Dobrik and Nick Lachey is hosting. And I just loved that so much because to see families, I mean, by the way, I still follow them all on social media. I comment, I DM them. They go, hey, what do you think of our new song or whatever? Me and my sisters grew up singing together.
Right.
So to see families coming together and making music, especially it's so like ironic that now that's so timely because when the lockdown happened, so many families started singing together and posting it. And it was incredible. And yes, so then it led to Girls Night Out actually first released on the Mixtape tour in its pop form. And then Heather, my manager, had the idea to contact Tracy Young, DJ Tracy Young. And Mark, you know Tracy Young.
Yes, I do.
Yes, she's been around a long time, and I knew who she was. And I was like, oh my God, first of all, Girls Night Out, Girls Anthem, Tracy Young. Also kind of an homage to the gay club scene at the same time with like a wink, wink. And it just felt so perfect. And she reimagined, I love when a great remixer gets their hands on a song and they really reimagine it and it becomes like a whole new production.
It's like a cult, yeah.
And she did that and it took off. And it was like the old days, and watching it climb was like every week I'd get the call with the chart position.
Right.
And when it would keep going, I was like, are you serious? Like, we felt like the little train who could, because I did it all independently with just my team. And that's still hard to do. I don't care how much of a name you have or think you have or a following you have.
Exactly, right.
You're going up against the big labels and the big machines. It is hard.
So it takes your village. It takes your little village.
It takes the village. And we called John Asher, the video director who directed the song that I did the cameo in, Boys in the Band, for New Kids. And we called all our resources in Vegas. Caesars Entertainment let us film in Planet Hollywood. They like closed it all off and we got to use, it was wild. So it felt just like this epic adventure that kept growing and the story kept going. And then the crazy thing is, the song's called Girls Night Out. It went to number 4 on the dance charts, both here and the UK.
Wow.
The lockdown happened, the charts froze with it at number 4 because girls weren't going out anymore.
Right.
And now that everything's kind of lifting, it appeared on the DJ Times chart like last week.
Oh my gosh.
And
that's excellent.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And we didn't do anything to promote it. So we're like, wow, people just really like the song. And I think the reason why it resonates and the reason I wrote it was because I saw all these women who, again, they are grown-up girls, really. Like 50 is younger than ever now.
Right.
And, I watched these women bonding with their girls on the Mixtape tour in the audience. And, I think that a lot of women sometimes feel stuck in their lives. I have 3 sisters. They love their kids. They love their husbands. And sometimes they need to go scream in a broom closet. Or they need to go out with their girls to a concert and just feel, not to be young again, but to feel that vitality that music makes you feel, and that being with your girls that you grew up with, that you have that bond with, that you feel. And so I wanted a song that captured that. And that wasn't just, oh, we're having a girls' night out, that it's, you know what? I'm having trouble hearing myself think. I can't find my voice anymore. I want to, you know, feel that power again and that vibrance. And so that was that. I wanted an anthem in the way Electric Youth was an anthem for kids. I wanted that anthem for the women in my generation.
Yeah. And now what do you have? And now you have a Sirius channel.
I have a show. I do
a show on, what is it, Channel 16?
And I'm playing you, girl.
Yeah. Oh, now when is that? When is that show?
Okay, this Friday. I don't know when you're putting this up, but this Friday and all weekend long for Father's Day.
Oh, nice.
Yes, your voice is so stunning. I'm playing you and your dad. So I decided for the Father's Day show to find fathers and daughters who sang, and you would think that would have been challenging. I had way too many. I was cutting left and right.
Wow.
I mean, there are so
many. Did I make
amazing.
The cut? Did we make the cut?
We made the cut, girl. And like, you know, Billy and Alexa Rachel and
oh, nice.
Marvin and Nona Gay.
You must have Natalie Cole and her dad too.
Oh, wow. and Billy Ray and Miley and Noah.
Oh, that's awesome.
That, you know, they you know, Frank and Nancy Sinatra. I mean, the list
of course.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah,
Debbie, we could keep you here forever. We haven't even got into all the awards that you've won. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, people can check that out.
We're going to have to do a whole nother show.
I know. I tend to talk a lot.
No, I love it. I love it.
Me.
No, I mean, I hate that we're keeping you from something. We've been talking for over an hour already.
Oh my God. Now, Mark, I have a question for Mark. Are you still in New York right now, or are you somewhere else?
I'm in Tucson, Arizona, which is a good place to be for the.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a good place to be for the pandemic because it's, you know, a lot of wide open spaces. So I'm not in New York City for all this.
I'm with you. I'm in Vegas in my little suburban bubble in the wide open space too. Which
exactly.
I know you guys are doing it out there in the apartments, and oh God, what a challenging time for everybody.
I know.
It is. It is. Yeah. But it's great to see the two of you. You look so wonderful. Obviously, you're surviving the pandemic and everything else. So I'm really happy.
You know, it's one foot in front of the other. I've been very, like, I say this when I do an Instagram live or when I do, because like people will see me on a great day, and we all have great days, but we also all have really hard days right now. And it's okay.
Right.
These are really hard times.
I mean, how do you do it when you go out there in your high heels bringing the trash in?
Yeah, it's so funny because, my God, last week when I didn't wear the heels, I got everyone, where's the heels?
Oh, how funny.
Okay, and by the way, look, here's the heels
that is so funny.
Those heels are made for walking.
I love it. Those are beautiful, Deb.
Well, it's just that, though. I try to do things that are it's like energy breeds energy.
Right.
So I try to do things, you know, like there are days I don't get out of my pajamas and I think, well, hey, nobody can smell me over the internet. So there you go.
That's why, Deb, that's why I started doing this.
Have those days where it's
I know.
Like, who wants to wash my hair today? But then I make sure that, okay, I let myself have those days, and then I go, girl, it's time to put on the blue and put on the sparkle, put on the lashes, because it starts you remembering that you can feel
that there is a life out there after this.
yeah. And so, and you know, I do these cameo videos. I don't know if you like. I make videos for people. This is like my cameo room setup.
Well, you know what, Deb? Somebody just contacted me about that.
Oh, you need to do it.
I don't know anything about it, so
yeah. I'm not over I've done like 1,200 of them. I just got Mary Wilson on because she's.
Oh, nice!
I talked to her yesterday. She said to thank you for it.
I'm hooking her up left and right. But I mean, the reason I bring that up is it helps me to connect with people during this time. So
right.
The video, it's not just I'm shouting out to them.
Right.
If I'm hearing something about someone's life, how maybe some music from me could make it better.
Right.
And it's just this constant connection, like we have to keep having with people. Otherwise, we will all curl up in a ball and like start to get up in the morning, you know.
Right.
And I have my dogs who are on a play date right now where they'd be all trying to be in the shot.
Or they'd be in the tutus.
Yeah, so I have three boy dachshunds who keep me on my toes.
Right.
And like being a parent, it's like, well, my boys are waking me up. It's time to
Right.
go. You know. So yeah, I always kind of just keep going. I mean,
Yeah.
keep going.
That's why I started doing this little show, trying to enter, because this is how I would be every day: hair up in a ponytail, no makeup, jogging clothes on, and I'm like, all right, this is not working. You've got to do something. So I thought, well, this would be fun.
That's so great.
Yeah. So, and I'm so happy that you agreed to be interviewed. I love it.
Sorry, it took a minute, but like I've started to pace my life differently.
Well, you're busy. You're so busy.
And I'm an overdoer. I'm leaving myself those moments too where I can come down, I can unplug, I can rest. And then I can keep going. And then I'm leaving myself the space to create music so that I'm not so scheduled all the time.
Right. And it's okay to say no. You know, we have to learn that it's okay to say no.
Yeah, I'm learning that.
I probably would have flown over to Vegas and knocked on your door, but.
I have a few friends that I want to do this with.
Right.
Like, you know, and they're dear friends. And I keep saying, it's coming. You're on my list. Right. But I'm not like frantically trying to get through a to-do list right now. That's not my MO. I just can't.
When we were talking about you playing Grease, I didn't know this because I just read it, but I'm interviewing Bobby Rydell on Monday.
Oh my God.
I didn't realize that Rydell High School was because of Bobby Rydell. I didn't know that until
fun. That's awesome. Tell him hello.
Yeah.
How cool.
Well, we love you. And when Mark found out that I was interviewing you, he goes, I want to come on. I said, well,
I want to pop in at least and say hello.
Oh, that's so sweet. That is so sweet, Mark. So great to see you.
So good to see you too.
Thanks.
This is wonderful. I've got double Debbie today.
Double Debbies, exactly. And you know what, Debbie? My mom's name was also Diane.
Oh my God, I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, my mom's name was also Diane. So, but I have different middle names. Are you a Deborah Ann?
Deborah Ann.
And I'm Deborah K. Yeah, we talked about that too.
Yeah, because there are 2 Anns and 2 Maries. Like when the middle name is the throwaway name.
What was your mom's middle name?
Josephine, after my grandma.
Okay, my mom was a Diane Marie.
Okay.
Yeah. So, well, I love you, honey, and we'll keep following you, and hopefully, I'll see you down the line somewhere.
Maybe. You and can't wait to play you on Sirius this week.
I know. What time does it come on Friday?
We all have to get together.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
Yes. We'll have
fun. You guys.
All right, babe. Bye. Have a great day.
Bye.
So good to see you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Deb.
Bye.
Thank you, Mark.
My pleasure.
It's real now. Bye, guys.
Can't hear my voice above the crowd. Way too small, it's all too loud. Haven't seen myself since don't know when.